You know what they sold this for? $75. We got this thing for $75.
I mean, I think they're
And they appraised it at $30.
so we think twice as much as we need to.
Boy, I mean, really.
It's only $30.
What's the
Take
deal?
75. All right, we'll let some people show up here.
Sure.
And we are live right now. All right. All right, we got a few people joining us now. Well, good morning, brethren. And if you're just waking up on the West Coast, or whether you've been awake for a little while here on the East Coast, welcome to the new archive space. For those of you who are hoping for a full tour of the new archive, we're not going to do that yet because we're going to be doing that during the biennial session. I've shot a bunch of video as this space was being built, but I'll give you a very quick peek. That's Brother Chris there. Of our new state-of-the-art archive space that we're really looking forward to talking to you about. But we're going to save that for biennial session. So this is a little teaser. Biennial session is third week of August. It'll be Monday morning. Hello from the Valley. Hey, Brother Gary, how are you? Good to see you, man. I'm going to try and pay attention to the comments here if I can. Also, we'll do our best to answer questions and things as they come up. I've got a second screen running here. So, good morning, Brother Chris.
Good morning, how are you?
Dude, you've been busy.
Yeah.
This
place
you and Olivia have,
It's exhausting.
1,800 boxes or something like that, right?
It's definitely more than that. We
You
keep
think?
finding more boxes. Larissa keeps sending us more boxes. It is a lot. There's a lot to do.
So, the old archive, which was up in our kitchen area, and again, we'll share some of this later on. It's been the archive since the building opened. However, they're making arrangements to basically knock a hole in one side of the building for two reasons. The first reason is to allow better handicapped accessibility to the building. The building was built in 1915, started construction in 1911. It wasn't something that the folks who built this building were thinking about as wheelchair access for people who had mobility issues. So obviously we want to be sensitive to that and do that in a way that doesn't compromise the historical integrity of the building, but also allows access for brothers who have mobility issues, because lots of people do.
Makes sense.
Right. The other thing that it will allow is it will allow a ground floor entrance for catering so that the ballroom here can be used more often. It's a beautiful George Washington ballroom here at the House of the Temple. The air conditioner was recently upgraded, so it's a really useful space. But the only problem with the House of the Temple is getting things in and out. You either got to go up those big front steps, which, think about carrying, a whole bunch of food up and down there, or you got to come in through an elevator that, on a good day, seems like you're taking your life in your own hands. It's very small. It was retrofitted to the building. We are all terrified every morning when we come in, like, please work.
Yeah.
I've been locked in. Have you ever been locked in?
No, but maybe I should be more.
Yeah, don't. So these changes will allow the building to be used more effectively. But it's a big project, and it did facilitate the movement of everything out of the old archive into this new space. Boom. It's kind of state of the art. It's pretty cool. I'm excited to tell you about it. But one of the cool things that Chris has gotten to do, and I've gotten to sort of look over his shoulder the whole time, is when you have to move all this stuff, it's like moving your house. You find crap you have forgotten about. And in our case, there has been so much stuff that nobody even knew we had. Like last week, we did a YouTube video, it's on Facebook Reels too, of a paper that was published on Benjamin Franklin's paper. Now he didn't own it.
Pennsylvania Gazette.
The Pennsylvania Gazette.
Well, he at one time owned it.
He at one time owned it.
Retired.
And the brother who took it over from him was a Mason, but it was the report from 1773 of the Boston Tea Party in ostensibly Benjamin Franklin's newspaper. So who knew we had it?
It was stuck between different newspapers, like a part of our old collections.
So here's somebody's wedding announcement. Oh, that's the Boston Tea Party, written by Franklin.
Well, and that was actually, so I'm turning the pages and I'm looking and going, Pennsylvania Gazette sounds very familiar, and I'm doing a little research and I go, oh yeah, this is actually, this is the Pennsylvania Gazette. I look at the date, I look at what was going on in the text, and I go, oh, this is Boston Tea Party. Shoot, we have an original, it seems to be an original edition of the notice for the Boston Tea Party.
So cool. So very cool. And if you got questions, comments, ideas, did Franklin's son take over one of his publications? It's certainly possible. I don't know. Franklin had a lot of sons, and some of them he acknowledged, some of them he didn't.
I think his name was David Hall or George
David Hall. It was David Hall, and he
took over the
Pennsylvania Gazette.
And then
he was a Mason, but he wasn't Franklin's kid as far as.
And the Gazette basically ran about for the rest of Franklin's life, and then about 10 years after his death, and then it shut down around 1800.
See, that's why you have to have a historian with you at all times, so you know these things.
Trivia.
But you get to find cool stuff, and like I said, well, we should do a series and let's talk about the 3 coolest things, and he was like, we should do the 3 coolest things I find a day. So here we are. This is going to be episode 1, and we'll add to this. Again, if you've got questions, comments, please drop them in the comment. And if you want to do a super thanks, we love it, and it does help us continue to make more videos when you donate to the cause. So super thanks is always appreciated, and as well as joining the Lost Media Archive. I got a little bit of news about that. I'll tell you at the end of this video. So where do you want to start with what you found today?
We said 3, but I found you a 4th.
Okay, all right.
Before what is this? What is your
So,
whole
for those of you who are fans of the Old West, and I definitely am, I'm getting ready to go to Tombstone, Arizona to do some video stuff. Kit Carson, he was a famous Western lawman, for lack of a better word. Kit Carson was a Freemason, and he actually was a very active Freemason, and at the Valley of Santa Fe in New Mexico, they have his rifle, and here is a very, very early picture of that rifle, which is pretty cool. And
Master Mason.
This is his Master Mason.
It's a duplicate.
It's a duplicate, but still, I mean.
The Montezuma Lodge.
Yeah, and that lodge is still an active lodge.
Awesome.
I interviewed on one of the podcasts years ago at the
Shout out to Montezuma Lodge.
Montezuma Lodge number 109 in New Mexico, which I'm a fan of all that stuff. But then this is carbon paper.
Yeah.
Like, I guarantee if you add, my kids are here today.
I don't even think they know what that is.
They will not know what it is. So very, very, very cool. I know the camera's mirroring. I'm sorry, but when you watch the replay, flip it. Yeah, maybe I can switch that. Hang on, let's try this. The problem is I won't be able to really see. Let's try.
Everything is backwards.
Yeah, it's because the camera's mirroring because I'm in selfie mode. So let's try.
Technically.
I'll stop. All right, but here, let's do.
You're interested in what the stuff is behind me.
Yes.
Here are the old proceedings of the Spring Council bound up. The old transactions. Handwritten transactions.
Those are cool. They just look cool.
They're huge. They weigh a lot. These are all fraternities and societies and other organizations.
I need to ask you about that one. All right, we're going to try to. That's the back side of the archive. So let's do this.
I don't like this.
Well, no, but hopefully we'll be able to see.
Way.
Yeah. Yeah. So there we go.
There you go.
Let's try that.
Then we want to see. All right, you've got the comments over there.
Cry.
Okay, great.
Yeah. So the comments are there.
All right, perfect. Is that better? Are we now in reverse?
Yeah, we should be.
Emotionally.
All right, but then I can. All right.
Cool.
All right, let's leave it be for a minute, and I'll see where that settles, because we're behind by about 30 seconds. So, All right, good enough. Hey, look at that. That's not a bad picture at all. So, all right, well, now I'll show you again. This is the handwritten or the typewritten bio of Kit Carson. And here is his Master Mason certificate.
Show them
And the picture of his rifle, which is pretty cool. Oh, sorry, upside down. And this is on display at the Valley of Santa Fe in New Mexico. So if there's a New Mexico brother on here. So do the Scottish Rite still access the Oracle of the Dove?
I don't even know what that
I have no
is.
idea what that is. So I'm going to go with a qualified, probably not.
Okay, let's start with what we actually
Yeah,
did
let's
want
say,
done.
what did you actually
Okay.
find?
So this morning, I see you're chatting with our grand musician, grand organist,
Brother Paul Dolinsky,
Paul
who
Linsky, they're upstairs.
also have some cool organ news to announce later. But
Okay, all right.
Tease.
And so I show up and interrupt the conversation as I usually do, and I go, hey, look what Larissa found. And so in our archives, Larissa found this interesting set of business cards for one of the last kings of Hawaii.
that
And
is
so
really cool. Who was a very active Scottish Rite
David,
Mason.
that's right, His Majesty David Kalukua, 33rd degree, Grand Cross. He was king of Hawaii from 1874 to 1891. That's his business card. It includes his Masonic business card. Excuse me. It's got the information associated to his organizations at the bottom left of your screen. And then the thing next to it with his picture is called a carte de visite. And I love carte de visites. These are an old...
It's a calling card.
It's a calling card.
Yeah.
That's right.
I was here.
Before social media, before all this stuff, they used to print these beautiful cards that used to give out to friends and family and acquaintances that you have, and so people would collect these. These would be collector's items, and so the file that was so the thing is, this was not associated with his. We have files on every prominent Mason.
Mm-hmm.
This was not in his file. This was on someone else's file, a brother from Hawaii, and so he had those tucked into his file.
Well, this is his business card, but this card actually came from the Enterprise Hack Company. It says His Late Majesty. So this must have been something that was printed after his funeral, and then the Hack Company would have been a taxi company, would be my guess.
And if you look at the front again, you'll see those black lines that go around that perhaps may be associated. See death notices.
Yeah.
They have the black lines around. I'll be right back.
Yeah, but on here the details are born November 16, 1836. He's a Scorpio, like me. Reigned 17 years, died in San Francisco, January of 1891. But we have a lot of his Scottish Rite stuff here, which is pretty cool. And cool that the Hack Company was, showing that off. Now I've seen he went by
Cool?
David,
It's got
but
his Scottish Rite, and then he's got his crown at the top on his business card.
And here it says past venerable master of the Lodge of Perfection, past wise master of their chapter Rose Croix, and past preceptor of Alexander, man, it's hard to read, Council of Kadosh number 1. So, so he was the head of all the various Scottish Rite bodies in Hawaii during his time. So this is an active guy.
I've got his biography file here.
Oh, cool.
So it says he received the degrees of Scottish Rite in 1784 by Pintkin Coles Rite, 33rd degree deputy of the Grand Commander Albert Pike. He was a charter member of the bodies in Honolulu, first wise master of Nunanu.
Yeah, I couldn't pronounce it, so I skipped
chapter
it.
Rose Croix. Coroneted a 33rd degree Mason August 14th, 1878. And then 2 years later, the Serene Council elected him Grand Cross October 21st. And so he was a Grand Cross for about 11 years. He died in San Francisco, California, 1891. And then a couple months later, Albert Pike dies in April of 1891. So
Wow.
they were pretty close to each
They were
other.
buds.
Yeah. And of course, Pike met, the king had a famous tour around the country. He traveled, and really it was a publicity tour to talk about the plight of the Hawaiian people and economic advantages and supporting the kingdom. So he really went out of his way to, he was really a king that tried his best to, spur economic growth within his territory.
One of the personal representatives of the valleys in Hawaii, I've got some good friends there. If it wasn't so early in Hawaii right now, I'd call and wake them up and ask how to pronounce this. But I bet you it is would have been the valley of Nu'uanu, which is now Honolulu. So
Right.
I would imagine Honolulu is probably an anglicized version of Nu'uanu.
Right.
So, but very, very cool to have his actual Supreme Council bio there.
Yeah.
And he went by David, but he has a Hawaiian name that
Right.
is like 3 consonants and 14 vowels. And I'm not saying that to be glib. I wouldn't dare try and pronounce it without help. So
Right.
very cool, very awesome
So
find.
that's number 2.
Number 2
of 3, but we said we were going to do
Yeah.
4. Okay. Let's do the poster
Okay.
last. Let's
Oh,
do the
last?
poster.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's a little bigger. Okay, so this was again literally today. Looking around, looking through boxes, and Larissa gives me a folder of stuff. I go through it, and whenever there's a handwritten letter, especially someone in the early 19th century, it always perks me up because I'm curious to know who it is. And there's a stack of paperwork with it. So
Okay.
I was like, okay, clearly something's important here. There's a stack of paperwork for one letter.
Yeah,
We
that
often
much provenance means
We
something
very rarely
important.
get this. And so this is a letter by a founding father of the
Cool.
United States.
Which one?
A gentleman named George Clymer. Clymer, that's how you pronounce it. He was, actually, I did do a little bit of a quick Google search to help us with this.
Yeah. So I'll flip the back here so you can see
Clymer,
where they.
here we go. He was from Philadelphia, so he was a PA native. He, abolitionist, American politician, founder of the United States, founding father, and one of the only 6 founding fathers to sign
signed
the
both.
Declaration and the Constitution.
Not a
So
Mason, though.
He may have been a Mason because he was involved in why the letter is important. So the letter is from Clymer to an architect named Clark Mills. So at the time, the Grand Lodge of Pennsylvania was working on building a new Masonic temple. And Clark Mills, an architect, was interested in putting in his designs. And so he submitted his designs and his drafts to Clymer. Now, who is Clark Mills? Clark Mills is the guy that developed the Washington Monument. He was the architect for the Washington Monument.
Very cool. And the cool thing is, you can see they didn't use an envelope. They folded the paper in such a way that it would be kind of mailed like this. And here's the seal that they used to seal the letter closed. And it's a personal. You can't really tell, but it's like a signet style wax seal. It had been on there. The wax is long gone, but very
Excuse me,
cool.
not Clark Mills, Robert Mills. Robert Mills, not Clark Mills. I'm getting my guys messed up.
Well, we're on the fly here, so everybody cut us a slack.
That's right.
But there you can see his signature at the bottom. And let's see if I can get up high enough. There it is. There you can see Clymer's signature there, which is a very cool document. So
And of course, Robert Mills, famously architect for the Washington Monument.
I know there are people who are giving us grief for handling documents and things like that. Some of these things, first of all, the white glove thing, that's with regard to certain artifacts, but the current logic with handling documents is to not use gloves for a lot of reasons. But the main one is that you don't have the same dexterity as you would without the gloves. And the little pieces, a little cotton glove can catch on a corner of one of these things and tear it. So you could cause more damage than not. And there are a lot of people who believe that some of the oils in your hands actually act as a preservative. So,
Yeah, there's some
so-
best practice around, making sure that, certain gloves are dirtier than a human hand, if you could believe it.
Yeah,
if you
I
use
believe
the
it.
same glove over time without washing it and taking care of it, it's actually dirtier using the glove than it is to use your hand. So obviously there's certain recommendations. One of the recommendations is, protect the document itself, right? So what we've done with climbers, we've placed it in one of these protective polyfill things that you can buy online. I think you can buy, like 100 of these online for like $15 to $20, and you can slip in your precious documents and letters and things like that if you're interested. And so, look, there are certainly times when you need to use gloves, particularly if you're working specifically in textiles. But when you're looking at documents like this, as long as you have, something protecting it, you're good to go.
Yeah, and there are some things that, we're Chris, Arturo de Hoyos, Olivia Curcio, our museum curator, when they let me down here in my big dumb hands, we didn't wake up today and build this. It was built, and people before us did the best jobs that they could. A lot of time it's volunteer staff, with limited budget, limited time, et cetera, limited experience. Now we have a very professional team, and so, it's not gonna all get perfectly preserved all at once. It's kind of a, as we find things and as we move forward, they'll be, treated with the way that they should be treated.
Right.
So.
Okay. So the last thing I want to show.
Okay.
This is the interactive portion. We're gonna have to physically move the laptop, but I wanted to show you all a poster from the 29th Triennial Conclave. This is a Knights Templar poster. So again, we don't have just Scottish Rite stuff in the building, right? As you noticed, we've got stuff from Philadelphia. We've had Kit Carson's stuff, so it's not just exclusively Scottish Rite. One of the things that we have here, which I think is really cool, and speaking of stuff that needs to be preserved and a little bit of work, is this poster from the Triennial Conclave. And I don't know if we can we lift it up and
absolutely.
Show you here.
Now is this glued to this? Or
I
it's
wouldn't
just
lift
sitting
this.
on?
I would move the.
Oh, okay, sure.
I would move
Sure.
the.
All right. Well, this might get wonky, but we'll do our best.
Just bear with us, folks.
Okay, here, let's see. All right. So this is, or you go ahead and tell them what it is.
Yeah. So
Because you're on that
this is a poster that we received. So the triennial sessions for the Knights Templar happen every 3 years. They tend to go to different parts of the country and different cities. And so for this session, it was hosted in San Francisco. And so as part of the marketing, part of the lead up to the triennial session, commemorative posters, documents, postcards, all these different things were produced, including what you see here, which is this knight in, Knights Templar in sort of jousting attire, because he's got his pole arm there and his horse, and it's looking over, I would assume, the San Francisco Bay. And so, there's this beautiful light. The sun is in the background. And so it's just a gorgeous piece. It's relatively well kept. It's really, the inside is, the internal part is good. There's just some fraying that just comes from transportation and stuff. And it looks like it's...
Clearly at some point it had been folded.
Oh yes, I mean, there's certainly, it was folded in a quarter. So, I mean, unfortunate, but it's just a cool looking poster. I'd love to get this. Maybe if someone's commandery is interested in donating to help preserve this and get this framed, we can get this guy framed. It's a cool looking poster.
Absolutely. All right, let's have back at this for a sec, because I want to ask you a couple more questions. Plus, I want to find out what you've got up to. We haven't talked to you about Chris Roelly stuff
Oh man.
in a while. All right. So, first and foremost, you have been working on it. I mean, it's over a year this has been going on, right?
Yeah, I mean, we've been moving stuff into this space for about a year now.
So, in that, and I do want to make Jar 13 says, haha, only 13 likes, can't make that up. Yeah, do me a
What did
favor.
he say?
He said there's only 13 likes. Do us a favor, and I'm very sincere about this. I know you think it doesn't matter to do the thumbs up thing. It absolutely matters. It please matters. So give us a thumbs up if you're watching. Give us a couple of thumbs up. And that's on any of our videos that you watch. It takes a split second to do, but it is absolutely helpful to the channel. I know that doesn't sound like it's that big a deal, but it is, because it bumps us up in the algorithm, and at this point, YouTube does give the Scottish Rite money for our videos. We get paid to do some content. And so every dollar that we get goes into things like preserving this stuff. We don't, it's not, going into Chris or my pocket. It's going to preserve documents. In the case of the Lost Media Archive, if you sign up for that, it's literally, I am rebuilding and getting the parts to rebuild a 16 millimeter projector to display a film that was shot by the Scottish Rite in the 70s. Yeah. And because who's got a 16 millimeter projector? I mean, it wasn't a consumer grade thing. Those were used by like elementary schools and things like that. So, if it was a 35 millimeter projector, you can find those relatively easy. If it was 8 millimeter old home movies, those are available on eBay. But a 16 millimeter, you got to find one that belonged to a school and then find the bulbs, and it costs money. And we don't want to take dues money and things like that. So when you give us a thumbs up on YouTube or you subscribe to something here, it 100% helps us, and it actively helps preservation efforts. So if you're watching this and interested in it, please do, and please give us a few more likes. It would definitely help. That said,
Yes.
in all the stuff you found, is there anything that just is like, wow, or like that maybe something that doesn't even belong here? Like,
Well, I'm impressed by how much some of the stuff that's been already covered in past videos and stuff. But I'm impressed about the patents and the documents that we have from the old Scottish Rite. So these are old Charleston, and I mean these are like 18th century patents. They're beautiful. They're ornate. They've been kept in such a good condition. I'm really excited to share more of those. I like personally a lot of the designs that the craftsmanship, like the type of artwork that you see in these types of things. This is a lost art, and unfortunately, we're not seeing a lot of people make this type of stuff now. So, to me, digitizing this, sharing this out, getting these templates out, so Masons who are interested in design can create new programs and portraits and all this kind of stuff. So, I've been very impressed by the art and the design of Freemasonry.
And just the sheer breadth of what's here. I mean, There's stuff here that you don't know. I have one that I found, in the Lost Media Archive. It's records, it's VCR stuff, VHS tapes, which I'll talk to you about that in just a minute. It's cassettes, it's a lot of reel to reels. And I found what I consider something that, I said, is there something that doesn't belong? The reason I asked you that is because in the Lost Media Archive, I found something that absolutely does not belong. You want to even?
I couldn't even imagine.
You couldn't. It is a VHS. It was a complete set of VHS tapes from the late 80s, early 90s would be my guess. And it would be Richard Simmons' complete Sweatin' to the Oldies collection. Swear to God.
I can imagine Greg Commander Klein Connect doing that.
Just down here sweating to the oldies, right. Come on, but let's do the twist with Richard going, come on, let's do the twist. I met Richard Simmons a bunch of times. He came on a bunch of radio shows.
He's probably very nice.
He was, well, he's dead, but when he was alive, he was extremely nice, very fun. Being around him is exhausting, but very, very nice man. But wears those short shorts even to black tie affairs. It was crazy. We were at like events where he was, and he would wear those short shorts no matter what.
It's a brand.
You gotta
stick to the brand.
Bless his heart. But they had a complete collection of the Sweatin' to the Oldies videos in there. And what I've been able to piece together is, we used to have a gym here in the building. It was, had a treadmill and some weights and things, and it's been repurposed for storage, I think, at this point. But and there was a television with a VCR in there, and they had, as part of that, they had the Sweatin' to the Oldies, so people could go in there and work out in the, God love them.
That's great.
Yeah, I mean
not a bad idea.
I'm not going to put that on the Lost Media Archive. Yeah. We're just going to leave that on the shelf as an interesting footnote to history. So, Richard Simmons drew his power from his sequin shorts. So, all right, now what, Chris Roelly, you and I have been ships passing in the night a lot lately.
You've been very busy.
So have you, man. Every time I look, you're in a different part of the country, and I'm like, I wish I'd known I would have gone with him so I could do X. And then I'm over there, and you're like, I wish I'd known I would have gone. So
that's exactly it.
We got to coordinate. We got to synchronize swatches. But you got another book you're working on.
So right now,
are you allowed to talk about? What are you talking about on social media?
I'm working on 2 books right now. So we're doing the Capitol and the Freemasons.
That's cool.
I'm committed to getting that out by next year before July 4th. So then we have the White House and the Capitol knocked out. And then there's some talk about the Supreme Court. People are like, well, you got to do all three branches. I don't know how much.
How much interaction did the Supreme Court have with Freemasonry?
You'd be surprised. There's actually a really good paper out that has documented. I think it was from a lodge of research. I want to say maybe Ohio or Indiana. Some lodge of research. Some guy has documented almost every single court case between Masons.
Really?
And I am like eagerly trying to find it. I found pieces of it. Some people have shared that document with you, and I'm very curious about that book, because I would definitely be curious about that. So we're working on Capitol and Freemasons, and then for those of you who are familiar with the Allied Masonic degrees, AMD,
which we did a video on here. If you haven't watched it, it's one of our more popular ones about a month ago.
Yeah. So it's and I use the Allied Masonic degree one. That's my fun one. That's when I'm not trying to stress out. Some people turn on the TV and watch something completely stupid like Love Island or some other TV show. But meanwhile, I'm like, I've got some time to, I'm gonna de-stress. Let's take a look at old proceedings of the Allied Masonic degrees. So clearly, I have no life, but
That's
I like
not
this
true.
kind of stuff.
The hobby is, you're going down those rabbit holes, and everybody's nerdy about something, and this is your thing.
Yeah. And then obviously, I'm in town today. I'm working in the archives, and so Larissa and I joked that it would take approximately 200 something years for this to be completely professionally done. So like we're talking, indexed, cataloged,
200 years.
Everything in order, everything properly documented with proper citations and proper provenance. And so who cares about me? I'm thinking about the grand historian in 2022 or 2202.
That's why, and if you've ever, and I'm working on my lodge history, taking a page out of your book, I'm going through all the newspaper mentions of my lodge, and I stole your idea. But the thing you realize is how valuable the secretary role is. You can tell which secretaries were good at taking minutes, and which secretaries were terrible at taking minutes.
That's right.
It has improved my minutes taking as a lodge secretary, because I'm thinking, 50 years from now, somebody's going to want to know what happened on this date, and I didn't write down much. I need to do a better job of this. Because the ones that wrote lots of details, you're like, this is my man
goodness.
here. Yeah, thanks for this
man.
guy.
Yes.
But some dudes just wrote lodge closed at 7:09. Like, that doesn't help.
Yeah.
Now, is there anything that we can tease project-wise, in here that's coming up, besides obviously with the biennial session coming up in August? We're going to reveal a lot more of the details of what happens in here.
Yeah, so I think Art and I have illustrious Art Gavoyas, Grand Historian and Grand Archivist for the Supreme Council, and I have talked about doing more videos and more, getting out there and sharing more items like we did today. So this is a little bit of a test run to see how to sort of get this more professional. So Art and I are working on a couple of projects to really share a lot of the things that we have here. The good thing is now that most of the stuff, I'd say maybe like 98% of the stuff is in this room, now is an opportunity where we can find these kinds of things. We can start to archive, and we have, and one of the, obviously there have been attempts to archive, so we have a lot of stuff already organized. We've got a lot of paperwork, and I think you showed before different boxes of, we've got things organized by Orient, by, foreign jurisdictions. So there is a lot of stuff that is already cataloged, where we're just talking about the stuff that comes in. Folks send us stuff all the time. Hey, Chris, or, unfortunately, sometimes lodges die out and they want to send us stuff. Hey, Chris, we've got minutes, we've got documents, we've got, my grandfather's old patent. And so sometimes it's just processing new stuff that comes in.
So a couple of other things we want to tease, and you know about all of these. The biennial session, as we mentioned, is coming up in August.
Right.
And we do this every 2 years, and because every year would be insane. And one of the things that we've done is about 3 years ago now, maybe 4, but you and me and Bowers, we were looking for some content we're constantly looking for ideas of what we can present on the channel that is, man doesn't live by bread alone, we try and have some fun while we're here. We try and be informative but also entertaining, because, at the end of the day, you can only read lodge minutes for so long, but and talk about ritual for so long. So we had decided we were going to do like an organ concert upstairs in the chamber, in the council, or not the council chamber, in the temple room, in the big ceremonial space. We're going to do an organ chamber, and we found out the organ was in terrible state of repair. And shortly thereafter, our grand organist, Brother Paul Delinsky, 33rd degree, wonderful guy, he decided, enough's enough. Let's get on the stick and start something to, repair and fix the organ. Well, he started on it, and our development team jumped on it, and they've raised money, and the new organ is installed, it's ready, and you will hear it at the biennial session, and you will hear it live on this channel in the future. So I can only say, I've been in the room when they've been playing it. If you've come for a tour recently, you've
it's
probably,
something.
It's
something.
Is awesome.
Yeah.
So, that's one of those things when you donate to the channel that, helps to preserve that organ. And we have some, there's some stuff I can't tell you, but we have something really cool if it works out for Halloween this year.
Oh, man.
Awesome.
Man.
It's going to make this Ghost Watch nonsense. Okay. That's one cool thing. And the second cool thing is I talked about the Lost Media Archive, which you're aware of, and I know we got to get going, but we talked about the Lost Media Archive for $2 a month, and there's some other levels in there if you want to donate more, but for $2 a month, you're helping us buy new old equipment that we can then use to digitize things. The problem with that is I have worked with this type of media for 30 years. I'm older than I think I am. And so learning how to use it and then plug it in and connect it to a computer with an adapter kit and all of those things, it takes a little bit of finagling. And I don't want to take Chris off of what he's doing here. Brother Matt Bowers is working on a ton of stuff. So a lot of times I spend like nights and weekends digitizing those things. Well, right now there is another person who I know very well who knows how to do all that stuff because I raised him, and he's upstairs right now, my son, who's a 32nd degree Scottish Rite Mason and my favorite Mason. And he's upstairs and he's digitizing a ton of stuff during his college break. So soon that'll be all lined up and it'll be a little bit more streamlined because I've got him, he's going to do a bunch of it this summer and then we'll release it as we go. So we'll hopefully be able to get ahead on that if all goes well. I once, about 2-3 weeks ago, I was at Alexandria Washington Lodge over in Alexandria.
Yeah.
And I spoke at their table lodge, which is a great honor. Thank them for having me. And Griffin went with me. And, everybody's waxing poetic about George Washington. And I stood up and I said, well, George Washington is actually my second favorite Mason. And I thought people were going to, the temperature in the room dropped.
There was a record scratch.
And people, I got, this look, and I said, my favorite Mason is actually this kid right here. And then everybody was like, all right, well, we'll let that one go.
Yeah.
that one was exceptional. But so, all right, well, hey, man, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you for all the work you're doing on this.
Thanks.
People don't know this, but Chris is mostly a volunteer. He's, at this point, he's
I'm
doing all this.
volunteer.
Yeah, he's totally a volunteer at this point. So buy his books and support this brother who is doing incredible work in this room for all of us. And I am very grateful. I know the Supreme Council is very grateful. So, so make sure you take care of this guy and make sure you give us a thumbs up and we will catch you again soon. So now it's gonna be all awkward because I gotta turn this around to turn it off. All right, we'll let you have one last look at this poster. Very cool. Yeah, give us a thumbs up.